So after the great rains, the lion was faced with crossing the river that was encircling him. Swimming was not his nature, but it was either cross the river or die. The lion roared and he charged the river, almost drowning before he retreated. Many more times he attacked the water, and each time he failed to cross it. Exhausted, he lay down, and in his quietness, he heard the river say, "Never fight what isn't here." Cautiously, the lion looked up, and he asked, "What isn't here?" "Your enemy isn't here," answered the river. Now the lion sat very still, and he studied the ways of the river. And after a while, he walked to where a certain current brushed against the shore, and then he stepped in, and he merely floated to the other side. Life is not our enemy. Life is not our enemy. It's our resistance, our mind resistance to what is, that causes us our pain in life. I was thinking about that last night. I resisted. It's interesting that you talked about that because I've done that a million times. I've resisted doing homework for the kids because I can't. but I was in bed and I have a trouble kind of sleeping sometimes, right? And I was in bed and I was watching The Good Wife. And I was so tired. I've never had that feeling you just can't watch anymore. I'm just so tired. I just want to go to sleep. But I had to see the end. Right? I had to see the end of what was going to happen on The Good Wife. And so I resisted sleeping, and I won. And I got to see the end. I turned off the lights. I laid back, and all of a sudden, my eyes were like saucers. And I didn't sleep the whole night. So what I'm trying to say is that life knows, right? When you listen, life knows I needed to go to sleep, and I should have just turned it. It was recorded, for Pete's sake. I could have watched it later, but I had to again and watch it. So I laid back down, and I was up the whole night. And I'm thinking about how we try to control, right? There was a piece of me trying to control that. You know, I got to control when I can watch it instead of just listening to life. And that's kind of the story of the lion there, you know? And we also fight what isn't there. We fight what isn't there. We make something where there is nothing to make. Mark Twain said, and I always have loved this quote, he says, "I have lived through some terrible things in my life, some of which have actually happened." It's not true. Don't we do that? You know, it's like we've made up all these things. It's like something happens in our life, and then we make the story around it. We're the ones that make the story instead of just accepting what's going on and living our life. We make the story. So the whole deal is about our reaction to what happened, and then the story that we build around what happened. I knew a woman, and she had a daughter who had a boyfriend who had piercings all over, places you could see and places that I've heard that you couldn't see. And she was, that's all she talked about. She was so unaccepting over it. It just almost destroyed her life. Every time she'd see me and see her relatives and her friends, she'd talk about it. You know, about this terrible kid who had all these piercings all over it. He was a good kid, but he had piercings and she couldn't get over it. It hurt the relationship with the son, with her daughter, and the boyfriend, with everybody else around it, and she couldn't accept it. It was the thought of who he was, right? And all the story, her resistance to it, that robbed her of the peace. And that's what we're talking about today, is the peace in our soul. You know, this calmness, this non-resistance to life, accepting life on life's terms, and being able to move forward. But instead, we make the story. One of the best pieces of advice I think I ever heard in my life was, you know, keep your state of mind your first priority. More than anything else in life, before you do anything else, center yourself, make yourself at peace before you move forward with anything that you're doing. And here's what Eckhart Tolle, Judy mentioned him, and he's so good about this idea on resistance. He talks about it a lot, and in his book, Stillness Speaks. He said, you know, even the moment doesn't have to be happy. It's not like we try to be happy every moment. Some moments aren't happy. He said, but we have to learn to know that the moment is enough, to accept the suchness of the moment. What is it? We have to learn to surrender to the moment, you know, not to the story of the moment. Now, think about that, you know, with this lady. The moment the kid's pierced, right? The kid's pierced. That's all it is. She made the story about what a rotten kid he was because he was pierced. So surrender to the moment. Whenever we surrender to this moment, instead of our story about the moment, we enter into our original peace. See, you are peace. Your peace, love, joy, you're all of it in there. And when we surrender, we feel it. But if we surrender to our story about life, as it is at the moment, we nearly compound our misery. The pain that you create now is always some form of non-acceptance, some form of unconscious resistance to what is. So think in your life, what is it that you are resisting? What is it that you are backing up in your life and fighting against that's not there? And for me, it's the small things. We all have big things that we deal with and that we resist. But it's these little things, these little small things that rob me of my soul. And I got to thinking that, my daughter, she dyed her hair this lovely shade of lavender, right? Honestly, that didn't bug me at all. I love my daughter. She's a great mother. She's a great kid. Her lavender hair was fine. I wasn't particularly fond of it, but, it didn't affect my peace of mind. Now, her mother-in-law came over. We were all sitting around, and her mother-in-law whispers in my ear, "Oh, I just hate that hair that she has." Now that robbed my peace. Do you understand what I'm saying? Is that it shook me off guard because I thought, boy, what is she? I started making up stories about what she said. I should have just said, okay, she said it. So what? But I made a story up around it. I don't like your daughter's hair. So it was that state of mind was irritation. And so I've been kind of thinking about this talk, and I thought about the thing I just told you, make your state of mind a priority. So my state of mind was irritation. What do I do? I don't want to go through that whole experience the whole night with all my relatives there, irritated because her mother-in-law had told me that she hated her hair. It was no big deal, right? So I know that the key to peace is that I can't eliminate the external difficulty. I can't eliminate that moment. I just couldn't do that, and I didn't want to walk out. I wanted to be there. So the truth is that you have to let go of your pattern of reaction, right? And I had to look back to the difficulty. Now think back in your life. You have a pattern. You have a pattern of how you deal with external difficulties in your life. And so the first step is always to look at yourself. It isn't about her. It's not about anything else other than me. And so I had to look at my pattern of reaction. And what I found out is that I take things personally, right? That was one of the things. I take things too personally. So I had to recognize that pattern in me. So I invite you to look when something irritates you, and it will, to look at your pattern. What is it, and how do we let go of it? And I've been reading a book called The Steps to Letting Go by Hugh Prager. And what he says is there's 3 steps to stop resisting or letting go. And the first step, he says, anything that blocks your peace, look at it, and then think, is it worth my peace? It's simple, but is it worth it? Was that comment worth the peace in my soul? Or do I want peace in my life? Do I want calm? Or am I going to resist it? See, we want the circumstances to change. We are not taking, if we want the circumstances to change, we are not taking responsibility for our state of mind. Circumstances are as they are. Our job is to come in alignment with our own peace of our soul, with whatever is going on in our life. Number 2, we have to be certain that we want to go beyond the block. Do I want to go beyond it? Some people don't. Some people like to be there. I don't really think they like to, but they don't choose to do something else. Okay? You want peace more than you want the thought of peace. Is that the truth? And number 3, we've got to start responding from our wholeness. Responding from, the bigger part of it, and not reacting from your mind, your ego mind. Both physically and mentally. I was nice to Tammy. I was nice to her. I smiled and didn't say much about, anything about what she said about the hair. But inside, I wasn't clear. I wasn't at peace. So I had to take a breath. I had to step back and not let that disturb the calm peace of my soul. See, the truth is that, this life, it's just this progress. It's a process of falling down, getting up, falling down, getting up. We're all probably progressing a little bit when we fall back. But the truth is that we stabilize somewhere. Where are you? So I really invite you to look. Look at your own life. Look at the the stuff that goes on in your life, the little irritations. We all have the big things that happen to us and they're difficult to deal with, but it's this day-to-day stuff of people saying things, of people doing things, of your own, mind, of looking at it and seeing where do you default there? Where do you go with that? And the truth is that each moment we get to choose. Each moment of our life, when someone says something to us, when something happens, we get to choose how we respond or how we react. We're either progressing towards love or we're falling back to fear every single time, and hopefully, it's more love. It's more of our acceptance that we're falling back to. And that's my prayer for each and every one of us, because I know we all face it, is that we quit resisting life, that we just let life happen and not make a story about it, that we open up and we respond with this incredible awesomeness that we are inside, the God part of us, the love inside of us. If we can start tapping into that, and my prayer is that we listen more, we listen to the guidance just as the lion listened to the river, because that's what that's about. And we let life support us. We let life support who we are. Thank you.